Let's go live now to Coalition frontbencher, the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians, Senator Jacinta Price, joining us live from Alice Springs. Great to talk to you, Jacinta. You must have been shocked, like everybody else, by the size of the defeat for the Coalition and the size of Labor's majority. What do you essentially put it down to?
Oh, well, I guess there's many factors with regard to what brought about the shock win for Labor over the weekend, and there's a lot that we have to reflect upon as the Coalition to determine where all our mistakes are. I mean, obviously polling was a huge one, following the polling that was presented to us without looking at alternative polling as well. You know, I think policies, we should have locked in our policies that were pretty much determined long before the election was even called, in terms of putting them to the Australian people, so the Australian people had a clear idea of what it is that we wanted to do to improve the country that we all live in. But I think we have to. In some ways, you've got to look at the silver lining in that we know that Albanese, after his miserable last 3 years, isn't going to turn this country around spectacularly and suddenly create a better economy, a lower cost of living environment for Australians. And certainly I know in closing the gap, I'll be watching very closely, because I know that all they do is invest in bureaucracies and organisations and do very little to actually speak to those who are served or supposed to be served by these bureaucracies.
Yep.
And that has led to why there's such a widening gap.
There's no doubt you need to get cracking on that policy work, because you'll need to implement it. There are going to be bigger challenges, I think, by the time the next Coalition government comes into play. But just looking at your own role, you must have been so frustrated during the campaign. You were hardly front and centre. You had that government cost-cutting role, which a lot of people tried to link to DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency under Trump. Then when you made an appearance side by side with Peter Dutton, you said, make Australia great again, as if that's not what we all want. Yet that Trump factor meant there was a huge reaction to that, and you kind of disappeared again. So both your own lack of prominence in the campaign and this linking to Trump must have frustrated you enormously. Could you share your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, sure. It was absolutely frustrating. You know, I think we probably didn't capitalise enough on the outcome of the referendum, the success of the Coalition in that regard. You know, the fact that we didn't pin that to the Prime Minister effectively enough. I think that was a lost opportunity there. And, you know, and watching the way the media, you know, like a bunch of vultures, will absolutely go you on one particular issue and smear you with you know, another country's president. That was a significant role that I think some of the media played, and frustrating, because
but the
again,
way to deal with all of this is to get out there and argue. Yeah, but the way to deal with that is to get out and argue your case every day, every opportunity you get. You can't crush any of those misconceptions or any of the lies unless you've got enough Coalition frontbenchers back there arguing strongly. And I didn't see enough of that happening. Yeah,
and I guess, you know, that is definitely a frustration. There's a frustration for me. That's a frustration for others. There's certainly a frustration for those of our supporters out there. And these are a lot of the issues that we will have to address as a coalition going forward, and that will evidently come out in the wash-up after all of this as well, to look at what the strategies were and how they could have been done a hell of a lot better.
Two big questions for those people right around this country who support you strongly, very important, about your own future. One is, will you put your hand up for a leadership position, the deputy leadership of the Nationals perhaps? But even beyond that, if you, while you're answering that, would you consider, I know under the CLP traditionally you must sit in the Nationals party room, would you consider seeking to change that so you could sit in the Liberals party room?
Well, look, you know, again, I guess the count hasn't been finalised. we're all trying to get our heads around what's just happened. There's a lot to consider going forward in all of this, and what I do know is that we need to figure out where we went wrong so we don't repeat those mistakes, and to take a strategy that's going to strengthen us going forward. And there is a lot to consider at this point in time and going forward. But
so we'll give you a leave pass.
I can guarantee one thing.
Yep.
Is that I'm absolutely going to go hard no matter what I'm doing, where I land, and basically for the benefit of all Australians, and for the fact that I know that, there are a lot of Australians out there that I've got incredible support of, and certainly support the direction in which, preferably would like to see Australia
Absolutely.
go.
Just I'll give you a leave. I'll give you a leave. I'll give you a leave pass on declaring a hand for leadership, because you got to wait for those votes to be counted. But you didn't rule out trying to switch to the Liberal Party room.
Yeah, look, as I said, there's a lot to consider right now at this point in time, and what we need to be able to do is be in a strong position going forward, so that we can rebuild as a coalition. And, as part of the Nats, we need to support the Libs in that direction, absolutely.
All right.
And that is, I'm a fighter.
Sure are.
And no matter what, I'll be fighting.
Thanks, Jacinta. Can't wait to catch up again. Thanks for joining us. Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price there, pointedly not ruling out switching to the Liberal Party. Imagine she was in the Liberal Party. That would help them fight. Perhaps we will see what unfolds there.